Yeah, hello, hoo-hoo, it's virtual event time again, and welcome to the Acronis virtual conference, how to drive hosting MRR and delight customers with Acronis and Virtuozzo. I'm actually preaching for many years at CloudFest how important reliable partnerships in the hoster ecosystem are needed in order to jointly build better products for our joint customers. This is just the first webinar of many which Acronis is planning to do with our partner landscape. And it's a special one for me, but more on this a little bit later. First of all, a couple of house rules. So we are releasing the wild animals on stage in a couple of minutes. So no flash photography and no recording. We are doing the recording for you. Second thing is, we're having this amazing Q&A window here in Zoom webinar. I'm pretty sure you know how to use that right now after many years of virtual conferences. And we have sales engineers from both Virtuozzo as well as Acronis here who help you with questions, but some of them will make it live here on stage during our Q&A session. So maybe let's warm up a little bit. I have one question for you just to get started, wake up everyone. This is the Acronis webinar. So I have a very simple question and you can type here in the chat field what you think is the right answer. In which year was the first version of Acronis shipped? Was it 99? Was it 2001 or 2003? In which year was the first version shipped of Acronis? 2001, 2000, sorry, what was it? 2099, sorry, A, 2001 or 2003? Up. None of that is correct yet, but we have another question later. Let me give you the correct answer. It's 2003, actually, when the first version of Acronis got shipped. Okay, let's get started. Let's take a quick look on the agenda. So we are starting with our panel discussion for about 40 minutes. We have two hosters with us on that panel, one larger one from Europe, one of the smaller ones in US. So we have two different territories, two different sizes of hosters here. And we have representatives from Virtuozzo and Acronis joining as well. After that, we have a couple of minutes time for a live Q&A, and we will do a wrap up thereafter and a small prize raffle. So let's get started. Let's welcome our panelists. So let's get the wild animals or the rock stars out. So let's go from left to right with a very short introduction before we go into the questions. Please welcome Stephen.
Hey,
Stephen,
Soren,
how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to the discussion today. Anyone who doesn't know me, I'm one of the solution engineers here at Acronis, and I'm very familiar with the hosting industry. It's been many years and lots of different companies. And Virtuozzo, has a special place in my heart. It's not the first time I've worked either with or for that technology. So, looking forward to today's discussion.
Nice to see you again, Stephen. Okay, the next in the round is Maik. Hello, Maik. How are you doing today?
Hi, everybody. Nice to see everybody virtually here. Yeah, most people may also know me because I'm responsible for Virtuozzo's core technology, which is previously known as Virtuozzo Containers for Linux, and now it's Virtuozzo Hybrid Server. It has a very long history, almost more than 20 years now. And I'm working with this product from the ground on. So when it has been developed, I was using it with 10 years or for 10 years inside service providers, and later switched to develop it further and make it more unique, more convenient for other service provider partners to use it in their infrastructure.
Okay, very interesting. Cool thing is basically you worked for a service provider before who launched Virtuozzo in the very early days.
Yeah.
And
right.
Now you switched beside working on the vendor side, making the product really useful for the hosters from what you experienced there. Interesting. Okay, the next one in our round, another German. Oh, no, sorry, Joe, our rock star. Joe, how are you? And greetings to Kansas, Missouri.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Morgan. I'm the owner of Joe's Data Center. I want to start out by thanking Virtuozzo and Acronis for having me here today and giving me this opportunity to hopefully share some insight that I can bring to the table. I started Joe's Data Center in 2008 and was essentially hosting my parents' web server because they were web hosts, and then kind of grew it from there into what we have now, which is thousands of servers online and customers in 66 different countries. We do services for web hosts, co-location, and now thanks to Virtuozzo and Acronis, we can do cybersecurity and data protection as well as cloud services, and we're expanding that on both coasts. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Joe. Last but not least, Christian from Berlin. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine. Great to be here. So I'm Christian. I'm Senior Vice President from Strato. I'm located in Berlin, Germany, and we are a hoster with more than 2 million customers, mainly in Germany and Netherlands. And I'm in this business for now more than 14 years, so happy to be here.
Good, and always great to see you again. Let's get into the questions. Let's get started. I think what everyone is always interested about, and we would like to have first our partners speak here from their perspective before Virtuozzo and Acronis is giving their opinion. It's always nicer to hear the partners first. I mean, there's a lot of challenges we have right now, right? So the last 15 months were crazy. There's all these new products we're rolling out, you know, digitalization of SMBs is not finished. Christian, why don't you get started from your perspective as one of the mass market hosting providers in Europe mainly? Like, what are the challenges you are seeing right now?
As you mentioned, the last year has been crazy. We had a lot of new customers. Most of them, or many of them, have not been online so far, which is great to finally get them online. But they need more assistance, more help, unsecureness. What product is the right for me? And so it was a hard time to help them all the time. But it's a great time to generate recurring revenue and to expand the customer base. That was a very good part so far.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot, Christian. Joe, how did you experience that in your territory which you are serving?
Yeah, so you know, I think that small businesses, especially web hosts, have always got a challenge of trying to compete with these larger companies that are able to always stay out there in the forefront and offer services at, you know, kind of low price points, and they've got to try to you know, figure out how they can compete against that with very little margins, and try to find opportunities to then upsell. These are products that are hard to migrate around and hard to get set up, and so I think that the decision of which provider they're going to go with to be able to provide these services is a big one, and it takes a lot of time and research. And so one of the things I really liked about my partnership with Virtuozzo and Acronis is that kind of turnkey, ready to go product, and it meets all of those, you know, requirements that are needed to get to market.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go a little bit deeper into these technical challenges aspect, a little bit more away from the business side. I think we heard that a lot over the last couple of weeks already. Let me also ask Stephen from Acronis, what is the thing, what you are hearing from your base, from the channel which you are serving?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, Joe kind of touched on it, and is that services are hard to move around. So you want to make sure that you're, you know, picking a really good service. But on top of that, it's about having a partnership or relationship with the technology provider. And it's so, because a lot of the times when you do need to do those migrations, you need that engagement. You need the support for that. And a lot of them, really, the feedback that we're getting is it's that onboarding step, right? It's actually getting the service up and running and getting things turned on. So because, you know, from the time you make that decision, you start doing that, to the time you can actually see revenue from it, is not always a short amount of time. So the easier it is to onboard, and onboarding can be, getting customers onto the solution, but it's also about training internal staff, getting the support team up to speed, all of those things. And so just having the resources available to do that and having something that makes sense and isn't counterintuitive and spread out across multiple different solutions makes a huge difference. And then from that support point of view, dealing with vendors which have partnerships, and therefore, there's not finger pointing at, it's their fault or it's their fault, but instead are working together to, actually enable the customers to be successful is something else that I know resonates really well with a lot of the hosting partners that I've been talking to.
Cool, thank you. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Mike, do you have an opinion about that? What do you see from Virtuozzo channel perspective?
Yeah, so beside what Stephen mentioned already, that nowadays service providers, they want, for example, sustainable and reliable and stable platforms which they can rely on. So this is one of the biggest differentiators compared to open source technology stacks which are available. They also have heterogeneous infrastructure. So they usually use different technology from different vendors, and they need to combine them with each other. Like in our case with Virtuozzo for delivering system containers and virtual machines, plus Acronis for a very reliable and stable backup solution supporting disaster recovery and so on. So they need these kind of solutions which are well integrated from different vendors, which they can plug in into their ecosystem, which they have with their own provisioning systems and so on.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike. Christian, from your perspective, one of the bigger players, it was something great, but what Mike said, this all needs to be there needs to be interoperability, between the systems and in the best way, partners work together, the same like Virtuozzo and Acronis can work together, or with Plesk or the cPanel and so on. How do you approach that, from a product management perspective, who also has a deep understanding, 14 years being in the hosting industry, knowing all these players, what is your expectation from a product manager on this point, what Mike was actually just saying right now?
I totally can agree to this. The integration and the part is very important to get customers early onboarded. That's something that Stephen also mentioned. I totally can agree to this. We see the biggest challenge at the beginning is not getting the first signing from the customer. It's to get them up and running and to see their first success. And then it is from the product perspective very important to enable the customer to grow with you, and that you can grow together. And this is something which Virtuozzo and Acronis is totally helping with their solutions, as we are managed to let customers start easily. Mostly they underestimate the resource they need, but they can easily with one click grow their machines or even add more machines to their contracts, and easily back them up to make them secure and that scaling. And that's what's worked and really helped us for a long time now to continuously grow.
Okay, how does that look like for you, Joe?
Well, I think, from a technology standpoint, one of the biggest challenges when a hoster wants to offer any new service is obviously integration, and we've touched on this a little bit, into the existing systems, right? Everybody has their own ways of doing things. They've got their own panels that they use, whether it be their billing and ticketing systems, whether it be the actual hosting panel where they provide, Plesk or cPanel or one of those things. And so one huge advantage I saw early on was the ability to integrate all of these systems, and large companies, sometimes they go, okay, great, it's got an API. We can throw a web developer in there. We can build our own system to integrate these things. But small businesses don't always have that resource available to them. and so right out of the gate, we've got cPanel integration, where a customer can see the Acronis logo, or the white labeled logo, and be able to check the status of their own backups from the interface where they're normally logged into, or we can integrate it into WHMCS. So it's part of the billing ticketing system, so that the order process is streamlined with the existing processes that are already in place. That getting from ordering the product and deciding this is the product that I want to offer to my clients to actually having a full system in place to onboard that client and get them into the system, and is obviously extremely important, and having that as just right out of the gate is a huge advantage from a technical standpoint.
Okay, that is very interesting to hear from you. Thank you. I have one more question specifically for Christian and for Joe here. So what opportunities do you see right now for new products, or what does customers ask for? You're very welcome to answer it generic, not necessarily related to Acronis and Virtuozzo, but if you also have an answer which is related on new products which your customers are asking to those two vendors, that would be nice to hear as well.
Yeah, for sure. May I start with it? One thing that we see at the moment with a very increasing demand is the whole backup and security functionality. Due to the crisis, more and more companies are going online. They are going online from everywhere, known as home office. And so the cybersecurity part is one thing that they really impacts them. They are asking, how can I ensure that my employees are not a risk for my whole company? That's one area where we see a huge demand. And the other part is the missing knowledge from many of the new customers, which allows us with do-it-for-me services, where we do see a huge demand from customers. And in the area from do-it-for-me, so completely, to up to assist me at least. These are two very new areas for us as a big hoster, because it's more individual, but I really see a huge opportunity on this.
Thanks, Christian. Joe, what's your opinion?
Yeah, well, my path to getting started with Acronis and Virtuozzo actually came from a MSP coming to me and saying they wanted to be able to find a way to add existing products to their offering. And so the ability to resell and white label was huge for me. And that multi-tiered structure where they could not only white label and resell the product, but then have their own clients underneath that were white label reselling that product as well was huge. When I first came on board, it was with Acronis, it was kind of strictly a backup product at that point in time. And so then they started adding these cybersecurity functionality on top of it. And my resellers, my MSPs were coming back and saying, wow, we've now suddenly got all these kind of verticals that we can hit and reach out. And the cybersecurity piece of it is huge, because, I go to these conferences for cybersecurity, and I always feel like a loner there, because I've got a staff of 10, right? And they do these presentations, and during them they talk about, oh, well, to get a real cybersecurity plan in place, you go to your boss and your boss's boss and their CEO, and then you got and they're talking about all these levels that just don't even exist for these small hosters. And so I go to these booths and I say, hey, what is a small business, a staff of 10 with 100 machines or less? What do they do to get security in place for their systems? And they're basically told, you don't, you're too small for us to even mess with. There's so many holes in your system that we wouldn't even come in and do an audit of your system. We would just say that, it's just hard for you to even get antivirus and anti-malware in place, let alone have a real cybersecurity solution. And so there's this big gap in the marketplace. And Acronis gives you this, not only this single pane of glass to protect their data, but to go in and say, hey, I can see every system now inside of this small business's infrastructure, and I can get a score on each machine and how well it's protected. And I can see, that they're up to date and patched and managed. And so those are huge selling points that just kind of got added on top of backups as a client. Then of course, disaster recovery as a service, and I think probably doesn't get enough attention, is the file sharing aspects of being able to offer, a secure way to file share between systems and send documents online.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot, Joe. Okay, I mean that is interesting to learn what your customers demand and how you also have a selection criteria about that. We already heard that a little bit earlier on. So let's get a little bit more to the subject which you both talked about right now, which is backup disaster recovery solutions. So there's the difference, obviously, how you deploy that, like for your own infrastructure, or how you offer it as a service to your customers. Yeah. So maybe let's start with Stephen here actually this time. Like in your opinion or in your pitch, like how do you explain the differentiation of both and the different kind of feature sets?
Yeah, you know, it's actually something that I've often you know, been asked by hosters, and you know, traditionally hosters when they think about disaster recovery, they're thinking about there being, you know, if there's a disaster, how can I get my entire server back up, right? So it's about protecting their own infrastructure. It's, you know, it's really things that they're completely you know, behind the scenes and not even exposed to their end customers, and it's kind of it's seen more as a cost center, right? It's a cost of doing business. It's part of, you know, what you have to have in place in order to provide a reliable service. And what we're talking about when we say DR as a service is actually the exact opposite. It's a new revenue stream. So it's the ability to provide end customers with the ability that, you know, they can, if something happens, you know, not necessarily at an infrastructure level as the hoster, but actually happens to the individual workload, that they could have a place where they could have business continuity. So you can take those core set of workloads and provide an additional layer, because one of the biggest challenges from a backup and recovery point of view is that delay between, hey, we recognize there being a problem, and now I need to get back up. That could be a ransomware issue. It could be, you know, just some kind of, you know, update that was done that you know, where something broke, and you know, you can roll back, right? You can do that recovery, but in some cases, you know, especially if you're doing business with that workload, right? It's something that's critical to your where you're going to lose revenue if it's not up. What we're talking about with disaster recovery as a service is being able to, in near real time, spin that workload up, you know, as in the cloud, have things working, and so as from a hoster point of view, it becomes two things. One is it's a premium service, it's an upsell, right? So it gives you that ability to drive your ARPU, but on the same side is it also differentiates your offering and gives you greater stickiness for those customers, because now you're not just providing a commodity service, you're providing them with a real solution. And so that's something that you know, really resonates well with the hosters that I've talked to, because, you know, again, you know, churn is a big thing, and certainly you know, as those workloads become more diverse, as they become in different places, being able to maintain that continuity of service is key to those end customers, and therefore a really good opportunity for hosters.
Okay, yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting new products at Acronis with cyber protection for hosters, WordPress coming up, and so on. So it will be interesting time. Maik, also the question to you. It's a combination actually of two questions we had before. What do you see is hot right now in terms of Virtuozzo? You know, what you see your channel partners, your hosters are demanding for you, and where do you see like new products coming out of your technology or architecture?
Yeah, well, actually, two items. So one is what we have discussed already a little bit. It's about security. I mean, our product is a fully virtualized product, so it delivers on a single bare metal system, multiple containers or virtual machines, which of course are isolated from each other. But workloads inside these environments are not protected nowadays. So you can, for example, you can spin up a mail server, you get some mails with some ransomware attached to it, and it then is located on the virtual environment. What we have seen, which is a huge demand already right now, people want to protect these environments from happening to such event. So they don't want to get mails with attachment, which includes ransomware and so on. They don't want to store it on their virtual environment. So they are a highly demanding solution which does protection of virtual environments from the host node itself, so not from inside the virtual machine. They want to protect it from outside, so that all the malicious data will never reach the virtual environment. And this is one of the things which Acronis delivers already with their cybersecurity portfolio. So we can jointly use their technology to protect our virtual environments from ransomware, malware, doing antivirus scanning, all out of the box from outside the virtual environment. So this is one very important track for almost every service provider nowadays. And the second one is there is a shift from virtual environments which spin up a full operating system, like a full guest operating system, to some kind of like application aware approach. So typically as a customer, maybe Christian can confirm it or elaborate more on it, they sign up for some service, like they want to have a WordPress site, and they don't care that much which technology runs under the hood. They just want a WordPress installation which should be stable, fast, and reliable. And they want to use it, it should be highly available, and so on. And this is a perfect fit for application containers, which can deliver these single application stack in a very, very efficient way.
Okay, cool. Okay. You want to add something, Christian?
No, I think it was, okay. was a really good explanation.
But while I have you here, to stay here for now, let's talk about money. So you launched Acronis cyber protection as a service recently, like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
What is like your general idea or your general strategy when it comes to packaging and pricing?
The main point that we see is that we have not the customer itself. Every customer is different, starting from a football club, they just need a site, to a shop owner, to bigger companies. So the one fits all approach did not work for us very well. So we have a big menu, even bigger with the solutions from cyber protection for now. It grows more, and we try everything to make it as easy as possible and as cheap as possible to join our product portfolio. And then we try to, and we work on to convince you to stay. That's the first point. And while your journey with us, we try to figure out all the time when is the right time, the right trigger, and the right part where to do, to give you decent hints to, did you even try this or that? Did you consider about this option? Have you secure your data? You need more resources. You need assistance for marketing to get more visitors on your site and all this stuff. This is a big part of my job to identify the right additional products, to expand the portfolio, and the right triggers and points in time when to talk to the customer to make him an offer that he cannot deny.
Yeah, I'm a long-term customer of Strato, so I know how you do this. Very well, Christian, very well. It's a cool strategy, it works out, I'm buying more and more. Joe, how's it going for you? What is your pricing strategy?
Yeah, I actually kind of wanted to maybe tie this back into the previous question and tell a story. Yesterday, I had a client reach out to me, and they had a server go down with another host. And so they said, hey, we're concerned. We've got a server with you. What happens if our server goes down, and how quickly, because they knew we managed the backups for them, how quickly could you get that server back online? And so that worked as both a great opportunity to kind of tell them about the current systems we had in place, which was, hey, you're sitting on top of our cloud infrastructure, which was running on Virtuozzo. So we always keep at least 3 copies of that data at any given time, and it can move your workload around. On top of that, we back it up through our Acronis cloud to a different region. So at any point in time, we have an offsite copy, and that running the same infrastructure underneath also maintains at least 3 copies of the data at any given point in time. You know, and so that opened the door to me then say, but if you're really concerned about the time that it would take to get you back online in this situation where something happens and there is a disaster, we also have the ability to give you this disaster recovery as a service. And so it opened the door to me then be able to, you know, not only use the backup system we had in place as a selling point for them, hopefully to maybe bring some of those workloads they had at other places in with us as well, but to also be able to then push disaster recovery as a service, because now that you know, that customer is kind of got his eyes open to the fact that, hey, you know, we are vulnerable, we are exposed, we do have the ability for a host to go down and cause us to have a business loss, you know, and so when those opportunities arise, you know, we've kind of got this full package all the way from where it's hosted to where it's backed up offsite to even the ability to get them back online in a timely manner. So, you know, from a pricing standpoint, you know, it makes it really easy when you can show them that in one place they get that entire feature set, you know, and some of these things can just be added on as those businesses grow.
Okay, very good story. Stephen, anything you like to add from a perspective of Acronis, where you stumbled the last couple of months over, let's say, interesting strategy, pricing, packaging models which hosters are using to offer something out of a Acronis portfolio?
Yeah, so you know that, like, there's, you know, kind of 2 different approaches that I've seen hosters using, and I think both of them have a different place and work well. So, you know, there's you know, the packaged approach, right, where you're bringing in a set of features and you're trying to drive as much value into that in order to get people to upgrade to the more expensive package. And then I've seen more the a la carte approach. And some of the more interesting hosters that I've talked to are kind of doing a combination of that, right? So you've got those core features that are built into your good, better, best, or your, you know, silver, bronze, gold, whatever you want to call it. And then you've got some of those real differentiating features, right? Those major, like disaster recovery, like some of those cybersecurity, which you can then sell as an add-on to any of those packages. So it gives you an ability to kind of do that blended approach, so that you can maximize revenue. A lot of the feedback I also get from hosters is it's important that they have margin in their products, right? It's such a competitive industry that you want to make sure that you can make money. And so that's something that we're definitely concerned with at Acronis, is making sure that the products and services that we have for hosters to offer can be done so in a way that they can be profitable, right? So it's making sure that we have, you know, that core set of services that we can offer at a very reasonable price, and then you have control as the hoster as to what products, you know, the customer has, and those can all be offered in a way that, you know, continues to grow not just revenue but also profitability.
Thanks a lot. Maik, also same question to you, but obviously from a perspective of Virtuozzo, did you stumble across very interesting models which hosters implemented with Virtuozzo lately?
Well, actually, what they try to do, and some doing it very successful, they apply certain ways of auto scaling for charging customers differently. So it's not only about I subscribe to some resource and I can change it later. They also charge only for the real used consumption of these resources. So they, for example, you as a customer subscribe for, like, let's say 4 GB of memory, but your application uses only like 2 GB, and you are not charged for these 4. You are just charged for the real usage of consumed resource. This is what some of our service providers are doing very successfully, because it's a differentiator. They can charge only the real consumption. It's cheaper for the end user. But for them, it doesn't affect their margins that much, because they can still put more environments on the same hardware, because there are spare resources which they can utilize.
You're on mute.
Mute. Yeah.
Beginner's mistake. Thanks a lot, Christian. Help me with something very simple to understand. This is a little more for Stephen and Mike still. I mean, Acronis and Virtuozzo are coming from the same hood. You know, it had the same mother company before both of them got spun off. I remember the time very well because I was working there. So beside of that, it's coming from the same kind of factory, let's say, from the initial days, now being completely separate companies. But like, give us a little bit more idea on the product side of explaining us the use cases, you know, which you already see nowadays, like how does Acronis and Virtuozzo is used in infrastructure environments together. Mike, I think you already mentioned one point a little earlier on, but let's try to elaborate like more of these, like 2 or 3 use cases, you know, where both can be used in the same infrastructure.
Yeah, so one is with Virtuozzo, one of the main use cases is to deliver virtual environments for a relatively low price to end users with as much as possible. So in a high density scenario, so you can spin up like several hundred system containers on a bare metal machine and sell it to end users. This is the main use case for Virtuozzo system containers. And the second one is all these resources and everything which is available to be limited by a container, like memory, CPU, disk space, network, and so on, can be oversubscribed. So you can basically create more containers with more resources than physically available, because usually nobody uses it simultaneously all the time. And with the help of Acronis, you can also protect these environments. So you have reliable backup, where you can define a lot of parameters like retention policies, a backup schedule. You have a granular selective file restore from a specific file inside the virtual environment, and so on. And of course, service providers can use it as disaster recovery purposes or for disaster recovery. So when there is some bad event happening in a data center, they can immediately restore all the virtual environments and continue their business.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think one of the other things that adds value is in a lot of cases, you know, when you're talking about those dense environments, you've got limited resources on each of the individual you know, VMs that you're spinning up. So being able to protect those agentlessly by installing an agent on the host, as opposed to having to, you know, have an agent running in each of those different workloads, simplifies the management, makes it easier to manage that entire environment. You can apply those protection plans, you know, very easily, you know, across that entire environment. You don't have to, you know, protect each individual VM if you're doing that at infrastructure level. And then, you know, as Joe was saying earlier, there's some of those integrations even into that actual hosting panel. So the end user can even self-service and leverage the infrastructure that has been put in place, you know, to be able to deploy that workload and then manage it from, you know, right inside something like cPanel. So it's, you know, it's all of those integration points. It's the fact that everything works well together. And certainly, you know, Acronis and Virtuozzo have really good communication channels. We make sure from a technology point of view, but also from a, you know, business point of view, there's good alignment. You know, as I was saying earlier, you know, things do go wrong. That's the nature of software. But being that there's a positive relationship between the two, and maybe this is actually something that, you know, that Joe could talk to very quickly, is when there is a problem, it's not finger pointing. It's a much more of a collaborative approach to getting the problem solved.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in there. I will say that I feel like I have a partnership with both Acronis and Virtuozzo, and both companies, you know, they are operate a little bit differently, but the one thing I've always gotten the feeling is that they have an emphasis on my success. So it wasn't just, hey, we're going to sign you up and then, okay, now you're committed to paying us and when we're gone, the sales process is over. No, it's like, okay, well, the next step is, how are you planning on marketing this? How are you planning on training your staff? How are you planning on integrating this with other products? Are you going to add the additional feature set? And I've never seen that with a vendor that I've used in my entire time in business, where, you know, I go to them and say, hey, I've got this issue and I know that your product doesn't do it, but it's important to me because I can't meet the demands of my clients without it. And they go, okay, well, let's look at where it can fit on the roadmap. Let's see if there isn't already another solution that we know of from another partner that we've got that would fix this problem for you, because somebody else has ran into this as well. And I'm sitting there going, man, this is night and day, and I actually was just discussing this the other day with somebody that, I log into my Acronis partner platform, and all of a sudden there's tons of marketing material. There's almost a full CRM in there, it seems like, of, hey, here's how you can advertise your clients through social media. Here's how you can do an email blast, and I mean, as a small business, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I could never take the time to write and get all this stuff prepared, and they're doing it for me, because they understand that this is a real partnership, and that not only do these systems have to integrate and work and be reliable, but they have to be able to be supported, not just by us as the end customer, to Acronis and Virtuozzo, but to our customer as well. And so I really have strong feelings that my success is tied to their success, and that's mutual. So
that's very nice. Yeah, Christian, go ahead.
I really can agree to this. It's for both Acronis and Virtuozzo a real hands-on culture in both of them. So it's not only the sales cycle, like you said, Joe, where you always get every support, yes, but it's afterwards. If there is a problem with in our customer existing base, there is always somebody to reach out. They are always there. They're always supporting. And if everything is running, they are also supporting you. And then with how can we make better, sharing experiences from what does work very good and campaigns and offerings, what does not work, and to improve together and work together continuously to have together the success. That's really a unique experience that we have here.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, I saw that over the last 20 years, working mostly for vendors as well as for CloudFest. And when I saw the success, it was basically the supplier, the vendor, who put the partner in the middle and helped the partner to be successful in the whole engagement with everything the partner needs to have. And I think that spirit is very, very strong in both companies, from my observation, being out of that for a while now, but still observing from the sideline, for the last couple of years. I think that's an extremely good spirit, and you confirm that, and you kind of answered the last question which I had. It's like what a supplier needs to do in addition, to technology to support you guys. So, but now, if there are any questions from Q&A, it's your chance to shoot them out right now. I have a colleague over there who will send them over to me. But other than that, I enjoyed talking with you. We will make this available. I think it would be nice to understand, that our audience understand a little bit better the possibilities of the Virtuozzo and Acronis relationship, what can be done, on the technology side of this underlying platform. So that would be nice to learn. And yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to observe what you guys are doing at Strato and at Joe's Datacenter. And yeah, do we have questions right now? Anything coming in? Or everything already? Okay, let's do the following. Let's do a little poll right now. I would like to say thank you first to everyone. Stephen, Mike, Joe, and Christian, it was nice having you here. And yeah, hope to see you in person at any time soon, Acronis Summit or CloudFest, hopefully. So thanks again for being with us.
See you again. Yeah, awesome.
Okay. So let's do a little poll. So you see it up here already, while we would appreciate that you give your short answer. Just a couple of ideas on my side, what I learned. I mean, ecosystem is important. How suppliers need to support partners is important. How we find together business models, how we define the products which are needed in days like work from home or mixed environments, ransomware, and so on, becoming a clearer target. So let us know how we can contact you. It was nice basically doing that. After a while, I did a webinar again, but it was great seeing you all here. And now we have a little prize to win basically. And I have one last question to do that. So earlier today, I was asking when CloudFest was, when Acronis was first shipped, which was the year 2003. My question right now is, in which year Virtuozzo was first shipped? I give you 3 possible answers again. Just type in the year or ABC. And the winner gets a football from the NFL Washington football team signed by star safety Landon Collins. Cool name. I don't know anything about American football, but must be a cool thing. So when was this first version of Virtuozzo shipped? Was it A, the year 2000? Was it B, 2001? Or was it C, 2002? What is the correct answer? When was Virtuozzo first shipped? A, 2000, B, 2001, or C, 2002? Okay, we have one correct answer here. We have 3 correct answers here. We have an anonymous attendee. He's anonymous, he doesn't get anything. So let's give it to Andrew Bowie. Congratulations, Andrew, you got the signed football. Okay. Yeah, that was nice being here with you. You learned a lot about our ecosystem, our integration partners, and generally our partner landscape. We have a lot of partners. If you want to sign up, if you're not a partner yet with Acronis, I promise you, your logo will appear in the next webinar when you sign up with us. And we have, as Joe mentioned before, we have a lot of resources for our partners, also specifically for our cloud service providers and hosting partners. Please take a first glance here on the resources we have available. Okay, last but not least, we would like to talk very quickly about our Acronis Cyber Foundation. I have a pleasure actually to serve in the underlying foundation as a board member together with Sergey, and we were able to raise together with you and together with a lot of hosters money from our industry. It's very interesting. It's if I look at our partner landscape, we have donators, large donators such as GoDaddy, like Intel, like Open Exchange, like private individuals from hosters such as Namecheap or DreamHost. So we have a big footprint, you know, with people and companies from the hosting landscape and ecosystem, which are already basically supporting and our activities in building new schools. And I mean, we would love to talk to you as well, to work with you or your company on this. So thanks again for this. I hope this was not the last webinar. Looking forward to the next one. I wish everyone a nice day and a nice rest of the week. Thanks a lot.